Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, take 3.
Yeah, definitely. It's, the reason why is because, again, interference, monitoring, all the above.
All the above.
As we're looking at a map and we see 109 quakes in a 24-hour period in this area, including one very large circle here. And of course, this is an area we want to be very, very 6.2 off the California coast at this triple junction area. This is an area that we watch extremely carefully. And of course, we had a swarm that was farther out over here about a week ago, I think it was. We had a pretty big swarm going, then it calmed down, and now we got a 6.2. And this is definitely something to
definitely keep an eye on. The guides are telling me that they need us to talk to you guys so you can please stabilize the area. They don't want to see anything. They don't want to see anybody hurt. They don't want to see any major shifts. They're not saying for sure something is going to happen, but they are saying that it needs stabilizing right now.
Yeah. And, one of the things that we want to just point out, so many things were attributed to God. If you're looking at, biblically, the Old Testament, etc. Oh, major things happened. It was because God was mad. Yeah. There's technology out there that can do all these things. And it doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be Mother Earth. It could simply be technology. Because you know what? We do have space-based laser systems. And as we go deeper and deeper into this cycle where people are waking up, pineal glands are waking up, all is going to be revealed. All is being revealed right now. It's like, we can see you.
We are in the middle of the apocalypse.
We know what's going on here. It's, the apocalypse. It's the great unveiling.
Yes.
Nothing mysterious here when you see technology being used in an area that can most definitely cause all sorts of disruption and havoc.
Yeah, so I hope I don't cause a problem by saying this, but when they did show me the laser, it was coming from the ocean side in.
Ocean side in?
Yeah, ocean side in. So it's some kind of a laser technology, most likely starting from space, then down to something, then bouncing over there. That's what I'm thinking, maybe.
Well, there's good news, and that is that there wasn't a tsunami.
Right.
And, it didn't cause any super major damage. Most definitely, it did knock things off shelves and, actually cracked some windows and things like that. It was, centered again off the coast. So obviously could have been a lot worse.
Yes.
But again, will this trigger something else? That's really what we want to keep an eye out for, because will it, again, trigger something that's bigger and stronger?
Yeah, so we do need to stabilize that area.
As you see these broken windows.
Ouch.
Yep, looks like a very pretty building. So something to keep in mind. Now, before we go too much farther, I just want to thank all of our supporters out there on Patreon, because we couldn't do it without you guys over on Patreon. In this age of demonization.
Yes.
Please do check, see if you are subscribed. If not, please do subscribe. And also over on Evolutionary. And we also want to thank everybody that's been using medicinal foods. Great products, can help you with your health, well-being, and use coupon code EEA and get an extra 5% off your order over there as well. So besides the quake, which we're going to keep watching, and the swarm that has been ongoing now ever since the quake, you see it's a triple junction area. And this is obviously, the Cascadian subduction zone area where it meets the San Andreas fault system. I've always kind of thought that if we have the big one, or when we have the big one in Cascadia, which they say is an inevitability.
Yeah.
And, I think if I remember right, they were saying about a 40% chance that would happen within most people's lifetime. You probably will have San Andreas go 1-2. There'll be a double whammy. And so this one hit at 12:10 p.m. was centered just off Cape Mendocino near Humboldt County, 30.8 miles southwest of Ferndale. And we could see all the afters. We'll send our prayers, we'll send our best intentions over there.
Yes.
We had those horrible tornadoes that hit so many states. And one of our family members was saying, did you see the wildfires that came through? And yeah, our brother Mark J., who takes amazing photos.
He does.
Of the moon and the stars and Jupiter and Saturn.
We should share more of that, really. He's amazing. Amazing.
Yes. He is. He takes such great photos.
They are.
And he was talking about smelling, fire burning when the storms were hitting. I remember he was saying it was like, I smell smoke, I smell smoke.
Oh, yeah.
And other people noticed something else. I was wondering how many people in the middle part of the country there, in the areas that were affected by tornadoes, noticed anything that smelt or felt off to their, lungs and their sinuses.
Yeah.
I'm just curious because we've heard of people talking about that.
Yes, and soot too. We've heard people talking about smell and soot.
And you got to wonder what gets released into the atmosphere in times like these. Hundreds of cattle burn alive as Kansas ranchers lose houses, barns, and livestock. Uncontrollable wildfires in Kansas. 2 men have died from injuries suffered in the wildfires that burned hundreds of thousands of acres across Kansas this week. Fierce winds sparked a slew of wildfires. This is really, it's so sad. We've been having a very, very cold drizzle today, and it has felt very much like we're heading towards winter. It's the first time that we could say that really here. But overall, the rain has diminished in many areas. And while, say Texas is not really necessarily in the same situation as the western states, the drought, again, artificial flavoring may be involved. This should be a disclaimer. This whole world is full of artificial flavoring.
I know.
And it's spreading. And again, it's heartbreaking, as it says here. This one person saying, everything my family worked on for the last 140 years is gone. Every piece of land that we own or rent has been taken out by fire, and they lost all their hay. And again, this is all this is all increasing the issues with food and the supply chain.
Yeah, it's creating more problems, and it just happens to keep creating problems for people who are trying to sustain.
Now, you have mass evacuations as Super Typhoon Rai slams into the Philippines. They had wind gusts of about 150 miles an hour. At least 375 people lost lives, and 56 more missing. This is just, it's been one storm like this after another, after another, after another. Just seems to never end, again, going back to 2017. And here we see severe weather wrecks top Southeast Asian port. And again, now this is Malaysia with flash flooding. Over 200 people dead, 440,000 displaced, and one of the largest shipping ports in the world disrupted. Yep. All this just keeps adding on to that way too perfect storm.
It does, and just keeps adding up and adding on.
This symphony of destruction that many people are waking up to realize the artificial flavoring component.
A lot of people, and this is the time of awakening. So here we are, and that's why your guys' job is so very important.
Electricity prices in Europe surged to record highs, and you have all sorts of extremes going on with the record colds or record warmth. You get whiplash. Keeping up with it, honestly, you get whiplash. Europe certifies, don't worry guys, crickets, worms, and grasshoppers are now an edible food Legitimate edible
my
food
gosh.
source
Yes.
amid soaring food prices.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So, you could get some cinnamon and chocolate covered crickets. Maybe, you want a little bit more crunch in your life, or maybe some mealyworms, just
Oh yeah.
a light saute.
Hooray, Mom and Dad, thanks. Let's go. Let's get it. Yummy, yum. My favorite.
Well, I mean, there are those that would choose to do that instead of some of the meat substitutes that we got to wonder, what are they?
What are they? I know. Yeah.
We'll have the whole world eating Soylent Green
Oof.
soon.
That's nasty.
Soylent Green is what? Soylent Green is what? And meanwhile, we have a CIA consultant. U.S. closer to civil war than most people would like to believe. Last month, the United States was estimated by the Stockholm-based International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance as being among the backsliding democracies, with the think tank noting that Washington has fallen victim to authoritarian tendencies itself. No, you got to be kidding me.
I know, right?
The U.S. is on the verge of a civil war, having already passed the so-called phases of pre-insurgency and incipient conflict, argues Barbara F. Walter, member of a CIA task force advising panel designed to assess political instability in the world, according to several excerpts from her book cited by the Washington Post. We are closer to civil war than any of us would like to believe. No one wants to believe that their beloved democracy is in decline or heading towards war. If you were an analyst in a foreign country looking at events in America, same way you'd look at events in Ukraine or Ivory Coast or Venezuela, you would go down a checklist assessing each of the conditions that make civil war likely. So we're in very dangerous territory, is what she goes on to say. And there's a index that they use to score it. And we're no longer the world's oldest continuous democracy, because we're technically no longer really a democracy.
Right.
Yeah. And many have talked about this, including, David Icke,
Mm-hmm.
and calling it a technocracy, because it is all about technological control of everything. So, yeah, the oldest continuous democracy is now technically Switzerland, followed by New Zealand. I think we got to argue there, because we've seen like major lockdowns going on over in New Zealand and Australia, and then Canada. And we're no longer a peer to nations like Canada, Costa Rica, and Japan, which are all rated a plus 10. Well, if you want to get down to it, there's a controlling group that controls everything that we see on the public stage. We know that. Most of you guys know that. All the regulars that follow us know that. And again, this is the great unveiling. Yes, and we've gotten from the guides, and their term was that now we will start to see the beginnings of multiple civil WARSs breaking out across the globe, as people have been pushed to the absolute breaking point. It's like, when do they get to the very, very breaking point? And this is whitehouse.gov. You might have seen this before, whitehouse.gov, right? Their message to every American is clear, and it tells you what it is. Now, if you don't follow what they're recommending, then you're looking forward to a winter of severe illness and death for yourselves, your families, and the hospitals that you're soon going to overwhelm. Well, people still have eyes, and people still have the ability to read, while there's still things worth reading, that's not
tainted.
Well, I was thinking about that word we used to always use when we're talking about, these authoritarian governments that, hit us with propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Propaganda was coming to mind. Everything is a sales job, so to speak, to justify the ends to the means.
Yeah.
And many people are questioning things, and we need to question. We really need to question things.
Yeah, we should be able to, because they don't let me speak question things as much as we want until it's our satisfaction, and then also be able to easily step out of a system into something that works for us if we so choose. But they don't do that.
Yeah, we always had dreams. I always had dreams of maybe getting to Costa Rica because they had no military. I saw a whole bunch of very spiritually minded people heading there. All sorts of offerings. If you're into yoga and meditation and nice music and things like that, I mean, all sorts of retreats. And yet, they have gone the dates for men route, and it's so sad. But again, that would be one of the main targets to hit a country that was actually starting to look like they were going to be a model for what was to come.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they fell victim. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody in the country has to, because there's always these pockets that just ignore.
Yeah.
And but they're going to keep looking for the pockets that are ignoring. That's part of this issue that we have going on, and that's going to really ratchet it up when we look to, in so many ways, the American Revolution, albeit it was war and all. When you look to the French Revolution was scarier in many ways. And, when you look to what's going on now across the globe, it's not hard to envision things spiraling to the point where you see kind of a global French version happening. And I don't think that's a stretch. It's a matter of when you push people too far, at some point, everybody has a breaking point.
They do, and this is what makes me so sad, because this is part of their plan, is to push people that far so that they do break. And that's why we have to be very thoughtful in our actions, very thoughtful in what we do, so that we don't fall into it's a trap, is what they're doing.
So again, speaking out to those people that are perhaps thinking that they're, and again, with this family, it's not the 99% of the people that watch this all the time. It might be a couple of the 1% that just stumble upon the channel for the first time and don't know exactly who we are and what we speak about. But it's reaching out to those people that are enforcing not the will of the majority of the people on the planet, but really that 0.1% that's all about the control of the 99.99. Recognizing, who do you really serve? And we've had so many people we've talked to in different service positions. People from police officers, people that have been in the military, and many other positions, even politically, and even with alphabet soups.
Yeah.
Realizing it wasn't what I thought. It wasn't how I thought it was. I didn't understand the depths of, say, corruption, for instance. And then you are hit with that big disillusionment. But then there's also that feeling like, how do you move against such a mighty machine? Well, recognize, yeah, it's a mighty machine, but yet we outnumber them like, hundreds of millions to one.
Yeah. That's something that's
right
so
now.
important. Yeah, right now.
At the moment. And just let that sink in.
Right.
At the moment, that is subject to change.
Yep. It is. It's something that while we have our sovereignty, we need to exercise it.
Absolutely. And you see Russia promises military response to any further NATO expansion. And so while we have the US, for instance, and many other nations closer to civil wars / revolutions, we also have on the big stage that looming threat of WW #3, which has been part of the script for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
China moves in on Iraq, but not like America did. And this is from RT. China signed a deal to build 1,000 schools across Iraq shortly after the U.S. announced the end of its combat missions, which left over 1 million Iraqis dead. 1 million Iraqis. 1 million people, 1 million lives lost since, these wars in Iraq began. Think about that. There was obviously 9/11, thousands of lives lost. What has the response to 9/11 cost? Right? 2020, Iraq's population is 40 million people. If there's 1 million lives that have been lost, it's like 1 out of every 40 people in this country has lost their life to war. That's insane high amount.
Yep.
Think about that. And really, if we look at the lives lost since 9/11 to, not just Iraq, but we could look over into Syria, we could look into Afghanistan. There's so many places, tiny, small African countries that we don't even, probably even know, most people. And, we have soldiers out there. 2017, the United States was in over 90% of the countries of the world militarily. And of course, the torch is going to go over to the fine dining ware country. We could see that. That's all happening right now as we watch. And yet, nothing really changes, except for the fact that any sort of outwardly trying to give a semblance to the thought of a democratic republic, so to speak, even existing in this world is starting to just totally fade away as we start to realize that freedom was always kind of an illusion. True freedom has always been an illusion.
It is, and it's sad. It's just they give you all of these choices and they give you all of these things to make you feel like you have free choices. But think about it. They've taught you what to choose. They've only given you these examples and they've kept so much from us, like understanding our bodies, how well we can heal on our own. And, they've taken from many of us the ability to heal on their own because they've altered us in some way, shape, or form. So now we're dependent. They've really done a good job.
Pentagon's new extremism rules extend to the likes reports. So what do they mean by this? Meaning that monitoring facial identification through social media and everything else. They'll basically be watching to see if you thumbs up something that maybe you shouldn't thumbs up according to what the big brother says.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those things. No, it wouldn't be anything like social crediting, would it?
Oh, that yes, that fine dining ware system of social credit score. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that on a global scale is what is most definitely, as we said, what you see over there at the PCC and put it up to a mirror is what globally everybody is going to be looking like if these powers that be have their way. Everybody will be living in China, so to speak, a global Chinese system. And it feels bad even saying that because Chinese history is one of the longest ones on the planet. And there have been some of the most brilliant thinkers that have come out of that culture, from Lao Tzu and Confucius, and we could go on down the line. It's a rich history, and it's sad because this is really, again, it's a totalitarian system that has made its way to enshroud this entire globe. And yet dawn is breaking at the same time, even though, it is always darkest before the dawn. And that is what we're seeing right now. As you see new rules rolled out Monday, Department of Defense officials told the AP, this new policy here. And, so you got to watch out that you don't, hey, look at something so quick and you say, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to thumbs up that, because you might get a knock at the door.
Yep.
we were watching some doors being knocked over in the Netherlands, people that were getting together and talking about how they don't like the MEDICAL system, and they're finding fault with it and don't trust it. Next thing you know, knock on the door, and there's all sorts of police and riot gear that come and take them all away.
Yeah.
So we might have thought we saw the end of the third, right? Only to see the dawning of the fourth on a global scale.
It's coming. You know, that's why we have to be prepared. And the most important tool in our toolbox is our inner soul, our soul, finding our center when something kind of smacks us in life. It hits us really hard. You know, you get thrown off course. Well, you need to be able to center yourself really fast. And that's why we always talk about the spiritual practice too.
You know, and I don't want to put any words in any mouths, but the guides have said that it's up to those who can protect the innocent to protect the innocent. And, you know, what's more innocent than like a newborn baby, for instance, being born into a system that's going to take away any choice in that new being's life. And more than that, you know, perhaps, you know, we could even go to, you know, recognize the darker possibilities. And we've talked all about this, how this is a battle of consciousness. This is literally a battle for your souls. Are you going to give away your soul in order to gain ease in the world, to have a easier go of things in the world? This is where, you know, everybody has to make their choices.
Yes, we all have choices to make, and we're not saying they're going to be easy, because, you know, we have our own choices that we have to make, you know, sitting here on this end talking to you guys. So we understand the struggles in which people face during this thing.
Most definitely. So keep stating your piece while you can. Keep sharing your heart while you can. Don't be afraid to voice your opinions, your thoughts. And, you know, if we keep doing that, and we do that in bigger and bigger numbers, and keep waking up more and more people, so eventually there will be nobody to enforce the will of the less than 1/10 of 1% that truly are guiding everything. Then we could affect some serious change upon this planet. We have to wake people up, and especially wake people up in positions where they are actually carrying out the will of the few at the expense of the many. So thank you guys, as always, for your support. Much love, and namaste.
Namaste.